Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going deep on personal finance and self-improvement, and we're using Li Xiaolai's The Road to Financial Freedom as our guide. Looking at your notes, it seems like you're interested in building a life that's not just wealthy, but deeply fulfilling too. And you've highlighted some interesting passages about selling your time and the potential downsides of always seeking security.
Yeah, you're right on. Li Xiaolai's approach really stands out because he says true wealth is about way more than just money. It's about having the freedom to design your life the way you want, which connects right back to that idea of selling your time in a smart way.
Okay, let's break that down. I'm seeing in your notes you're really interested in specific area from the listener's notes as a way to maybe increase the value of your time. Li Shalai seems to suggest that mastering a specific area is really important. What are you already doing to improve your skills there?
That's a great question to think about. Li Xiaolai says we need to become masters of our craft, whatever that may be. This mastery not only makes us more valuable and able to earn more, but also helps us work better, faster, and with a bigger impact. It's about making every hour really count.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not just trading hours for dollars, it's about making the most of every hour we spend working. Now, another idea that you seem to connect with is attention as a currency. We hear that a lot these days, but what's different about how Li Xiaolai talks about it?
Well, he argues that we're constantly bombarded with distractions, especially with all the technology around us today. He compares it to advertising, where companies grab our attention for cheap and then sell it back to us at a much higher price. He wants us to be way more careful about what we let into our minds and to take back control of our attention.
That's a really interesting idea. It's true that so much of the world today, from social media to those flashy ads, is designed to grab our attention. How do you think we can protect and develop our attention in all this noise?
I think it starts with realizing what's happening. Recognizing how our attention is being manipulated is the first step. From there, we can actually do some practical things, like setting boundaries with our phones and computers, being more picky about what we read and watch, and maybe even trying things like mindfulness or meditation. Li Xiaolai actually suggests a simple but powerful meditation technique.
I'm always interested in practical techniques. Tell me more.
He suggests focusing all your attention on your breath for a set amount of time. It's about noticing how it feels to breathe without letting your mind wander. It sounds easy, but it's actually pretty tough at first because our minds are so used to jumping around from one thought to another. This practice helps to strengthen our ability to focus and ignore distractions.
So it's kind of like cognitive training, working out those mental muscles.
Exactly. And Li Xiaolai says this mental strength is so important, not just for managing our attention, but also for reaching our goals and dealing with all the challenges of life. It reminds me of the trap of security, something you highlighted in your notes.
You're right, I did. I get what he's saying about how taking calculated risks is necessary to grow, but it's not always easy to leave our comfort zones. How do we balance that very human need to feel secure with this desire to push ourselves and grow, especially when it comes to things that make us anxious?
That's such a good question, and it's something Li Xiaolai thinks about a lot too. He knows that wanting security is natural, but he says that holding on to it too tightly can stop us from taking the very risks that lead to real growth and progress. He suggests we take a closer look at how we view security, realizing that true security doesn't come from avoiding risk altogether, but from developing our inner strength and resilience so we can handle uncertainty.
So it's not about becoming fearless, it's about changing how we think about fear.
Exactly. It's about understanding that feeling uncomfortable and uncertain is often a sign that we're about to grow. It's about getting used to the unknown and trusting that we can handle whatever challenges come our way. It kind of reminds me of another concept you were interested in, this idea of living in the future.
Oh, yes. That one really caught my eye. It sounds almost impossible. What does he actually mean by living in the future?
It's about thinking ahead, about trying to predict future trends and making choices today that line up with your vision for tomorrow. He doesn't mean literally living in some distant time, but more about developing the foresight and strategic thinking to set yourself up for success in a world that's constantly changing. Li Xiaolai's own experience investing in Bitcoin is a perfect example of this in action.
That was a bold move. What made him so confident to invest in Bitcoin early on, especially when so many people were skeptical?
Well, he didn't have a crystal ball or anything, but he did have a deep understanding of the technology and what it could mean for the future. He saw it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, even though it was still new and untested at the time. He understood that big innovations often come from unexpected places, and that real success requires being willing to embrace the unknown. He believes anyone can learn to think this way.
So how can we, as individuals, learn to see into the future like that and make smarter choices?
He suggests we start by questioning what we think we know and challenging the way things are. Don't just accept things as they are. Be curious, explore different points of view, and think about other possibilities. It's about constantly learning and being able to adapt. It's about getting comfortable not knowing everything and being open to new information and experiences.
Makes sense. It's about being proactive and not just reacting to things. Now, another concept you highlighted is this idea of multidimensional competition, which honestly sounds a bit intimidating. Can you break that down for us?
Absolutely. Li Xiaolai says just being good at one thing isn't enough anymore. We're not just competing against other people, but against whole systems and structures. Think about an example from the listener's life career. How can you use your current strengths to get ahead in that kind of situation? He believes it's about combining our different skills and experiences to create something unique and valuable.
So it's like seeing connections that others miss and then using those connections to create an advantage for yourself.
Exactly. He uses the example of Olympic athletes who surprisingly became successful in totally different careers after their athletic careers were over. Their athletic background gave them really valuable skills like discipline, focus, and resilience that were helpful even outside of sports. Li Xiaolai thinks we all have a mix of strengths and experiences that we can use in ways we might not expect.
That's actually a really empowering way to look at it. It's not about fitting into a box. It's about creating your own unique path to success. Now, one more concept that seems central to Li Xiaolai's thinking is this idea of metacognitive ability, which honestly sounds kind of abstract. Can you help us understand that better?
Metacognition basically means thinking about how you think. It's about becoming aware of your own thought process, biases, and limitations. This self-awareness is crucial for making better decisions, learning more effectively, and getting over beliefs that might be holding you back.
Okay, I think I get the definition now. But how do we actually develop this metacognitive awareness? It still seems kind of hard to grasp.
Li Xiaolai says mindfulness practices like meditation can be really powerful for developing metacognition. He recommends something called sitting meditation, which is about calming the mind and simply observing your thoughts and feelings without judging them. It's about creating some space between yourself and your thoughts so you can choose how to respond instead of just reacting automatically.
So it's about becoming the observer of your own mind rather than getting swept away by all those thoughts.
Exactly. And Li Xiaolai thinks being able to observe your thoughts without judgment is key to overcoming those limiting beliefs and making conscious, intentional choices.
This is so interesting. But to be honest, the idea of sitting still and meditating can be intimidating, especially for someone who's never done it before. Are there other ways to develop this metacognitive muscle? Something maybe a little easier to start with?
Li Xiaolai suggests a simple exercise you can do anytime, anywhere. He asks us to really think about this statement. Time always seems to fly by after it's passed.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I know that feeling. But how does thinking about that statement help with metacognition?
It's about using that statement to jumpstart some deeper thinking about yourself. He wants us to ask, why does time feel like it's slipping away? What are we missing right now in this moment? How can we change our thinking and actions to use our time better? What needs to change in our approach to life?
Wow, there's a lot to think about there.
Exactly. And that's the power of metacognition. It's about taking time to examine your assumptions, habits, and thought patterns. It's about really understanding how your mind works so you can make better choices and live a more intentional life.
So it's not just about meditating on a cushion. It's about finding those moments for mindful reflection throughout our day.
Exactly. And Li Xiaolai says we can strengthen this metacognitive muscle by practicing it, just like working out at the gym. The more we practice, the better we get at noticing our thoughts and making conscious choices about where to focus our energy.
I love that. It's like going to the mental gym. But what are some other mental workouts that he recommends for building metacognition?
He also talks about the importance of pursuing your interests with passion and focus. When you're really into something you love, you naturally enter this state of flow where you're completely absorbed in the present moment.
Ah, that flow state. I've felt that before. It's like being in the zone where time just disappears. But how does that connect to metacognition?
It may feel effortless, but that flow state actually takes a lot of focus and attention, and that strengthens our metacognitive ability. It's like a mental workout that feels good.
So it's not just about meditating or analyzing our thoughts. It's about finding activities that we're passionate about and really immersing ourselves in the experience.
Exactly. Li Xiaolai says finding that sweet spot where your passion and skill come together is really important for becoming a master in any field, and it also improves our metacognitive abilities at the same time.
I love that. It's about finding that sweet spot where passion and skill intersect. This has been an incredible exploration of metacognition. It's already making me think differently about how I approach my own life and work.
It's a powerful concept, and Li Xiaolai emphasizes it throughout his work. He sees it as the key to unlocking our potential and creating a life full of meaning and happiness. Now, you also highlighted his ideas about persistence and grit, but he seems to have a different view on them than most people.
That's right. He doesn't just present persistence and grit as blind determination. He says they come from a deeper understanding of cycles and trends. That's an interesting perspective. So it's not about always pushing harder, but about working smarter.
Exactly. Li Xiaolai wants us to align our efforts with those natural rhythms of growth, and he wants us to understand that success often comes from riding the right wave at the right time. He believes true persistence comes from understanding the process, the long game, and the ups and downs that come with any meaningful endeavor.
That's a really valuable distinction. So it's not about grinding all the time, but about knowing when to push, when to adapt, and when to be patient. I see how that connects to his idea of living in the future.
Absolutely. It's about having a smarter and more strategic approach to perseverance. And it's about realizing that success rarely follows a straight line. There will always be setbacks and challenges along the way. And our ability to learn from those and change our approach is what ultimately determines our long-term success.
This has been a really eye-opening discussion already. It's clear that Li Xiaolai's philosophy goes way beyond just finances. It's a whole approach to creating a fulfilling life. But one thing I'm curious about, he mentions that even the simplest things can be stumbling blocks for people throughout their lives. What do you think he means by that? And how can we avoid those pitfalls?
That's a great question to think about. It could be about getting over old habits, questioning things we take for granted, or just being more present and observant in our daily lives. Maybe it's something you can think about more as we continue to dive deeper into Li Xiaolai's work.
I like that. A little something to keep us thinking. Now, let's move on to another key concept. You highlighted this idea of multidimensional competition. It sounds like Li Xiaolai is saying we're not just competing against individuals, but against systems. How do we even start to approach that kind of competition?
He really emphasizes that in today's world where everything is connected, we're not just competing against other people, but against entire systems and structures. It's about understanding the forces at play and positioning yourself strategically to succeed in this complex, interconnected world. He even argues that being ahead of just 20% isn't enough anymore. We need to aim for the top 1%.
Wow, that sounds intense. But how do we even begin to think about that kind of multidimensional competition?
It starts with knowing your strengths and finding ways to use them in different areas of your life. Think about the skills and experiences you've gained throughout your life. They might be more valuable and transferable than you realize. He even talks about the surprising success of former Olympic athletes who found new careers after they stopped competing.
I see. So it's about recognizing the value of all our experiences and seeing how different fields are connected.
Exactly. Li Xiaolai wants us to break free from linear thinking and embrace a more holistic view of success. It's not about fitting into a predefined box, but about carving out your own unique path by using your many different abilities.
That really resonates with the whole entrepreneurial spirit today, doesn't it? It's about being creative, resourceful, and adaptable.
Absolutely. It's about knowing that we can all achieve amazing things by thinking strategically and tapping into the power of our multidimensional selves. Now let's dive into another important part of Li Xiaolai's philosophy, metacognitive ability. This is a big one, and it connects to everything we've talked about so far.
Okay, I'm ready. Bring on the metacognition.
Li Xiaolai believes metacognition is the key to unlocking our full potential. It's about understanding how our minds work, recognizing our biases, and developing the ability to think critically about our own thinking. He even goes so far as to say that the mind that can free itself is the mind with sufficient metacognitive ability.
Whoa. That's a powerful statement. But how do we even start to develop that level of self-awareness?
He suggests mindfulness practices like meditation are essential for developing metacognitive skills. He emphasizes paying attention to our thoughts and feelings without judging them. It's about becoming an observer of our own mental processes. He even provides a very specific example.
Ooh, I love specific examples. Tell me more.
He asks us to really think about this statement. Time always seems to fly by after it's passed. It seems simple, But he challenges us to really sit with this idea and ask ourselves, why do we have this feeling? What are we missing or overlooking right now?
Yeah.
How can we shift our thinking and actions to make better use of our time? What needs to be corrected in our approach to life?
Wow, there's a lot to unpack from just that one statement.
Exactly. That's the power of metacognition. It's about slowing down and examining our assumptions, our habits, and the way we think. It's about understanding how our minds work so we can make better choices and live more intentionally.
So it's about taking control of the story in our heads.
Exactly. And Li Xiaolai says we can build this metacognitive muscle through practice.
So, like going to the mental gym. I like that. What kinds of mental workouts does he recommend?
He's a big fan of meditation, specifically a technique he calls sitting and enjoying, or sitting meditation. It's about finding a comfortable position, closing your eyes, and focusing all your attention on your breath.
I've heard of this before. Isn't it really hard to quiet your mind like that?
It can be, especially at first. But that's where the mental workout comes in. You're basically training your mind to stay present and resist the urge to get distracted by thoughts. Every time your mind wanders, you gently bring it back to your breath.
It's like doing mental reps.
Exactly. And as you practice, you become more aware of your thoughts and feelings. You develop a better ability to observe and control your mental state.
So it's about building mental strength and discipline.
And according to Li Xiaolai, that increased mental strength directly affects our ability to achieve our goals and live a more fulfilling life.
This is fascinating. I'm already feeling more mindful just thinking about it. But Li Xiaolai doesn't just stop at meditation. He talks about other ways to develop metacognitive ability.
He also emphasizes following your interests with passion and focus. When you're deeply involved in something you love, you naturally enter a state of flow, where you're totally absorbed in the moment.
Ah, the flow state. I've definitely experienced that before. It's like being in the zone where time seems to disappear.
Exactly. And this state of flow, while it might feel effortless, is actually a powerful form of metacognitive training. It requires sustained focus and attention, which strengthens our ability to control our minds.
So it's not just about meditating on a cushion. It's about finding activities that light us up and let us completely immerse ourselves in the experience.
Precisely. And Li Xiaolai argues that this kind of immersive engagement is crucial for mastering any field.
I love that. It's about finding that sweet spot where passion and skill come together.
Exactly. And by cultivating our metacognitive ability, we can tap into that sweet spot more easily and more often. We become more aware of what makes us happy, what challenges us, and what allows us to truly thrive.
This has been an incredible exploration of metacognition. I'm feeling energized and ready to put these insights into practice. But I'm curious, how does Li Xiaolai suggest we use this powerful mental tool to actually achieve our goals?
He emphasizes using metacognition to identify and overcome limiting beliefs. It's about questioning the stories we tell ourselves and challenging the assumptions that may be holding us back.
So it's about becoming aware of our own mental blocks.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that negative self-talk, the doubts and fears that can sabotage our efforts. By bringing those thoughts into the light, we can start to challenge and reframe them.
It's like shining a light on our blind spots.
Precisely. Li Xiaolai encourages us to use our metacognitive ability to examine our beliefs, identify those that aren't serving us anymore, and replace them with more empowering ones.
I love that. It's about taking control of our mental landscape and making it more fertile for growth and success.
And it's not just about positive thinking. It's about developing a realistic and nuanced understanding of our strengths and weaknesses. It's about using metacognitive ability to honestly assess our skills and figure out where we need to improve. Li Xiaolai is also a big advocate for lifelong learning and personal growth.
This connects perfectly with his focus on living in the future, right?
Absolutely. He believes metacognitive ability is essential for adapting to a rapidly changing world. By understanding how we learn and how our minds process information, we can become more effective learners and better adapt to new challenges and opportunities.
This is so inspiring. I'm feeling motivated to level up my own metacognitive game. But I'm curious, how does Li Xiaolai suggest we actually measure progress in this area?
He thinks one of the best ways to measure metacognitive growth is by looking at our ability to teach others. If we can clearly explain a concept or skill to someone else, it shows a deep level of understanding and metacognitive awareness.
That's a great point. Teaching forces us to really understand the material and see it from different perspectives.
Exactly. And Li Xiaolai encourages us to learn with the intention of teaching it to someone else someday. This shifts our mindset from passively taking in information to actively engaging with it and truly understanding it.
I love that. It's about making knowledge our own and then finding ways to share it with others.
And that act of sharing actually deepens our own understanding and metacognitive awareness. It's a beautiful cycle of learning, growth, and giving back.
It sounds like Li Xiaolai's philosophy is all about empowering ourselves to be lifelong learners and take an active role in creating our own destinies.
Exactly. He believes that we all have the potential to do incredible things if we cultivate the right mindset and habits. And metacognitive ability is at the heart of this journey.
This has been an incredible deep dive into metacognition. I'm feeling energized and ready to apply these insights to my own life. Now, speaking of putting these concepts into practice, you also highlighted this fascinating idea of understanding and harnessing the power of cycles and trends. This seems especially relevant today, with the world changing so fast.
He believes that understanding cycles and trends is key to making good decisions and achieving long-term success. It's about recognizing the patterns that shape our lives and aligning our efforts with the natural flow of things.
So it's about seeing the bigger picture and not getting caught up in all the short-term ups and downs.
Exactly. Li Xiaolai emphasizes the importance of developing a more long-term perspective, one that goes beyond the immediate fluctuations. It's about understanding that setbacks are a normal part of life and recognizing that real progress often happens in cycles.
This seems especially important when it comes to investing.
Absolutely. Li Xiaolai thinks many investors make the mistake of reacting emotionally to short-term changes in the market. They get caught up in fear and greed, which drives market cycles, and they end up making impulsive decisions that hurt their returns in the long run.
So it's about staying calm and rational even when things are volatile.
Precisely. Li Xiaolai emphasizes the importance of having a clear investment strategy and sticking to it, even when things get rough. It's about having the discipline to ride out those market storms and not letting emotions control your financial decisions. This idea of having a clear investment strategy is also echoed in his views on strategically selling your time, which we can discuss more next time.
That sounds like a great place to pick up in part 2. This has been incredibly insightful, and I can't wait to hear more about what Li Xiaolai has to say.
I'm excited to continue this exploration with you. There's so much more to uncover. And I believe Li Xiaolai's wisdom has the potential to truly change how we approach our lives and work.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We left off in part 1 talking about how important it is to understand cycles and trends, especially when it comes to investing. I'm really curious to hear more about Li Xiaolai's take on investing and how this connects to his idea of strategically selling your time.
Li Xiaolai approaches investing as a way to gain more freedom, and this goes back to his main idea of selling your time in a strategic way. He argues that by investing wisely, we can create a stream of passive income, and that frees us from having to constantly trade our hours for a paycheck. This freedom allows us to pursue our passions, spend more time with loved ones, or simply enjoy life on our own terms.
That's a really inspiring way to think about investing. It's not just about accumulating wealth, it's about creating a life with more choices and more control. It sounds like he's talking about building a life of sustainable abundance. But practically speaking, how do we actually invest wisely? I feel like so many people get caught up trying to time the market or chase those quick profits, which can lead to big mistakes.
Li Xiaolai warns against that exact trap. He believes in a more disciplined and strategic approach, one that focuses on long-term growth and minimizes risk. He suggests what he calls a dollar-cost averaging strategy. This means consistently investing a set amount of money in a specific asset at regular intervals, no matter what the market is doing.
I've heard of that strategy before, but I never really understood why it works. Isn't that a little risky? What if the market is going down?
Li Xiaolai actually believes this strategy reduces risk, especially for those who are investing for the long term. By consistently investing over time, you're averaging out the price you pay, which lessens the impact of those market ups and downs. It's a way to ride out the inevitable volatility of the market and benefit from that long-term upward trend. He compares it to planting seeds. You nurture them consistently, and eventually they'll bear fruit.
That's a great way to put it. It's about trusting the process and putting in consistent effort over time. It really lines up with his ideas about persistence and understanding cycles. Now, what specific kinds of things does Li Xiaolai recommend investing in?
He encourages investing in assets that have the potential to grow over the long term. This could include things like stocks, real estate, or even cryptocurrencies. But he emphasizes the importance of thorough research and understanding the risks involved with each type of asset. Knowledge is key, as he often says that the more we know, the better equipped we are to make smart investment decisions.
That makes perfect sense. It's not about blindly following the crowd or jumping on the latest investment trend. It's about doing your own research and making sure your investments match your personal financial goals and how much risk you're comfortable with.
Exactly. And he also stresses the importance of patience, but not in the traditional sense of just waiting around for things to happen. He sees patience as understanding that everything has its own timeline and that forcing things rarely leads to lasting success.
So it's about aligning ourselves with that natural rhythm of growth.
Exactly. Li Xiaolai encourages us to deeply understand cycles and trends, to realize that everything has its own season, and to be patient with that process of unfolding. He applies this philosophy not only to investing, but to life in general. He believes that by trusting the process and putting in consistent effort, we create a solid foundation for success that lasts.
It sounds like his approach to investing is as much about developing the right mindset as it is about choosing the right stocks or assets.
Absolutely. He believes our mindset plays a crucial role in our ability to make smart financial decisions and reach our goals. He even offers a word of caution, reminding us that many things that are wrong are not necessarily intentional, but they are certainly detrimental.
That's a good reminder to be mindful of the impact of our choices, even if we don't mean to cause any harm. It seems like he's encouraging us to be proactive and take responsibility for our decisions, especially when it comes to our finances.
Precisely. Li Xiaolai wants us to own our choices and strive to make decisions that align with our values and how we see our future. He also challenges us to never settle for mediocrity and to always aim to be among the top 1% in our chosen fields.
That's a bold statement. But it makes sense considering his emphasis on multidimensional competition. In a world where everyone's trying to get ahead, how do we even approach that level of excellence?
He suggests we start by figuring out what our unique strengths are and then finding ways to amplify them. It's not about being good at everything, but about focusing on what we excel at and then using those strengths to create exceptional value.
So it's about specializing, but also being adaptable and finding ways to connect our skills and experiences across different areas.
Exactly. He compares it to a well-rounded athlete. They might excel in one particular sport, but they also have the discipline, work ethic, and mental toughness to be successful in other areas of life too. It's about understanding that our skills and experiences can be applied in different ways and contexts.
That's a powerful way to think about it. It's not about fitting into a mold, but about creating our own blend of skills and experiences that helps us stand out and thrive. He also seems to be challenging the traditional idea of education as the only path to success.
It's true that Li Xiaolai questions the conventional view of education. He argues that while formal education has its place, it's not the only or even necessarily the best way to gain knowledge and develop skills. He thinks the focus on grades and standardized tests can actually stifle creativity and discourage people from thinking for themselves.
So he's not saying education is bad, but maybe the current system isn't the most effective way to create lifelong learners and innovative thinkers.
Exactly. He believes true education is about empowering individuals to discover their talents and passions, to develop a love of learning, and to build the skills and knowledge they need to succeed in a world that's always changing.
It's about nurturing curiosity and a genuine desire to learn, rather than just memorizing facts and conforming.
Exactly. And Li Xiaolai wants us to take control of our own education, to find mentors and resources that inspire us, and to never stop learning and growing, even after we finish formal schooling. He thinks the most important skills in the 21st century are adaptability, creativity, and the ability to learn and unlearn things quickly.
I think he's really onto something there. The world is changing so fast that being able to adapt and learn new things is more crucial than ever. So what does he suggest as alternatives to traditional education?
Li Xiaolai is a big advocate for self-directed learning, online courses, mentorship programs, and immersive experiences that allow people to customize their learning to their specific interests and goals. He believes we can create a personalized curriculum that truly aligns with what we want to achieve.
It's about becoming the architects of our own education and seeking out experiences that are truly transformative. I really like that idea.
And he emphasizes that learning should be a continuous, lifelong pursuit. He encourages us to stay curious, question our assumptions, and never stop exploring new ideas and perspectives. He even uses the term meta-learning to describe this process of learning how to learn.
Meta-learning. That sounds really interesting. Can you tell me more about that?
Meta-learning is about developing a deeper understanding of our own learning processes and figuring out what strategies work best for us. It's about becoming more efficient and effective learners by optimizing how we take in, process, and integrate information.
So it's like building an operating system for our minds.
That's a great analogy. Li Xiaolai argues that just like a computer needs a strong operating system to function well, our minds need a solid foundation of meta-learning skills to process information, connect ideas, and generate new thoughts. He wants us to be more intentional and strategic about how we learn.
This is fascinating. It sounds like meta-learning is about cultivating a growth mindset and being more aware of our own learning styles.
Exactly. And he stresses that meta-learning isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about trying out different learning methods, figuring out what works best for you, and constantly refining your approach. One of the key principles he highlights is minimal, actionable knowledge and experience.
What does he mean by minimal actionable knowledge?
It's about focusing on the essential knowledge and skills you need to achieve your goals, and ignoring unnecessary or irrelevant information. He argues that we often try to learn everything, which can lead to feeling overwhelmed and procrastinating.
That's so true. I definitely do that sometimes. The amount of information out there can be paralyzing.
Li Xiaolai encourages us to be more selective about what we learn. He suggests asking ourselves, what's the absolute minimum knowledge and experience I need to reach my goal?
That's such a simple but powerful question. It helps us cut through the noise and focus on what really matters. It reminds me of his emphasis on prioritizing and selling our time wisely. It's not about doing more, but about doing the right things.
Exactly. And he also highlights the importance of repetition and practice. He believes that consistent, deliberate practice is essential for mastering any skill or knowledge. He even shares a personal experience that shows how powerful repetition can be.
Okay, I always love a good story. What experience did he talk about?
He remembers a time when he was trying to improve his eye for design and his ability to estimate the golden ratio, which is about 0.618.
The golden ratio. That sounds pretty complicated.
It is, but Li Xiaolai was determined to master it, so he came up with a simple exercise. He'd take a stack of cards and draw a line on each one over and over again, trying to estimate where the golden ratio point would be.
So he turned it into a game. I love that. It makes it less stressful and more fun to learn.
Exactly. And through this playful repetition, he actually developed an intuition for the golden ratio.
Yeah.
He even jokes about being able to impress his friends with this skill, even though it was just the result of consistent practice.
It's amazing how powerful repetition can be. It can turn something complex into something that feels natural and effortless.
Exactly. And Li Xiaolai believes that this applies to any skill or knowledge we want to learn. He encourages us to use the power of repetition and find fun ways to make practice enjoyable and engaging.
This has been so insightful. Li Xiaolai's philosophy seems to connect so many important ideas, from financial strategies to mindset shifts to practical learning techniques. It's really making me think about how I approach my own life and work.
It's a really holistic and integrated approach to creating a life that's meaningful and fulfilling. I think one of his most important messages is this idea of taking ownership of our lives and becoming the architects of our own destinies.
I completely agree. His ideas are both challenging and inspiring. I think our listeners will find a lot to think about and apply to their own lives, and we still have so much more to talk about in part 3.
I'm looking forward to continuing this exploration with you. Li Xiaolai's wisdom has so much to offer, and I believe our listeners will come away from this deep dive with valuable insights and a renewed sense of purpose.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. In part 2, we got into Li Xiaolai's approach to investing, how he emphasizes long-term growth, consistent effort, and a strategic mindset. He really sees financial freedom as a way to open up more choices and autonomy in life, not just as an end goal in itself. There's one part of his investment philosophy that I'm still thinking about, though, this idea of not risking what you can't afford to lose. It seems like common sense, but I think a lot of people, especially when they're new to investing, can get caught up in the excitement and make decisions without thinking them through.
You've hit on a really important point there. Li Xiaolai is big on responsible investing, and he says it starts with knowing your financial situation and how much risk you're comfortable with. It's about making decisions based on information, not emotions. He reminds us that while there's potential for big rewards in investing, there are also risks. It's crucial to think long-term and be prepared for those ups and downs in the market.
So it's about planning, being disciplined, and not letting fear or greed control your investment decisions. It sounds like that takes a good deal of self-awareness and emotional intelligence.
Exactly. And that's where Li Xiaolai's focus on metacognition comes in again. The better we understand our own thought patterns and emotional biases, the better we'll be at making rational decisions, not just with investing, but in every part of life. He even suggests that we try to change how we think about failure.
How do you mean? Most people try to avoid failure as much as possible.
Li Xiaolai encourages us to see failure not as a defeat, but as a chance to learn something. He thinks setbacks and mistakes are just part of growing. It's about embracing the idea that failure is just a temporary lack of success and using those experiences to learn, adapt, and become stronger. This ties in with his different take on patience.
This reminds me of those parts you highlighted where he redefines patience. It's not about sitting back and waiting, but about understanding the natural rhythms of growth and progress.
You got it. He sees patience as this deep understanding that things happen when they're supposed to happen. It's about realizing that forcing things rarely leads to real lasting success. He encourages us to really get those cycles and trends, to know that everything has its own timing, and to be patient with that process of unfolding.
That's a really beautiful way to think about patience. It's about trusting the timing of our lives and not trying to force things to happen. It seems like this idea applies not only to investing, but to everything we want to grow and develop in, both personally and professionally.
Absolutely. Li Xiaolai's philosophy is all about aligning ourselves with that natural flow of life, recognizing that growth takes time, and being willing to be okay with uncertainty. It's about focusing on consistent effort, making smart choices, and trusting the process.
It's about playing the long game and not getting discouraged by those inevitable setbacks. Now, switching gears a bit, I'd love to hear more about Li Xiaolai's view on attention as currency. You brought this up earlier, and I think it's so relevant today with all the information and distractions we face constantly.
It's a core part of his thinking. He says our attention is our most valuable asset, but we often waste it on things that don't really matter. He wants us to be more careful about where we focus our attention and to be critical of the digital world.
It's about understanding that a lot of what we see online is designed to grab our attention and keep us hooked, often to benefit someone else.
Exactly. And Li Xiaolai wants us to break free from that cycle of distraction and take back control of our attention. He believes that's crucial for our well-being, our productivity, and our ability to make smart decisions.
So, what are some practical things we can do to protect our attention and be more mindful of how we're spending our time online?
Li Xiaolai has some great suggestions. First, know the tactics they use to get your attention. Recognize those algorithms and notifications that are meant to keep you scrolling. Second, set boundaries with technology. Make specific times for checking emails or social media and stick to them. Third, be picky about what you see online. Choose to follow people and content that are high quality rather than just going for quantity.
It's about taking charge of our digital lives instead of letting them control us. It's about being intentional and choosing to focus on what truly nourishes our minds and souls.
You nailed it. Li Xiaolai believes this mindful approach to technology is essential for developing focus, creativity, and overall well-being in our digital age. And he stresses that this focus is important not only for our online lives, but for everything we do, including our relationships.
That's a great point. Li Xiaolai seems to see the importance of relationships in a way that goes beyond networking or building professional connections. It's about creating deeper, more genuine connections.
That's right. He believes strong, supportive relationships are essential for our emotional health, our resilience, and our ability to thrive. He tells a story about a close friend who was going through a tough time financially. Even with all the challenges he was facing, this friend never complained or asked for help. He stayed positive and focused on finding solutions.
That's amazing. What did Li Xiaolai take away from that experience?
He realized the power of resilience and the importance of surrounding yourself with people who uplift you, especially when things are hard. He emphasizes that true friends are the ones who inspire us to be our best and who support us no matter what.
It's about building a network of positive, supportive relationships, both personal and professional.
You got it. And Li Xiaolai believes that these relationships aren't just about what we get out of them, but about what we give back too. He's a big believer in giving more than you take.
I love that. It's about creating a ripple effect of positivity and recognizing that our actions have a real impact on the world around us.
Exactly. Li Xiaolai thinks that when we focus on giving, we create a cycle of abundance that benefits everyone. He even challenges us to think about this. If you want to be in the top 1%, you have to do something that only 1% of people are willing to do.
That's a powerful thought. It suggests that achieving extraordinary results takes extraordinary effort and a willingness to go above and beyond what's normally expected.
Exactly. Li Xiaolai doesn't believe in shortcuts or instant gratification. He believes true success comes from consistent effort over time, embracing challenges, and always striving for excellence.
This has been such an inspiring and thought-provoking deep dive. Li Xiaolai's philosophy is clearly about so much more than just money. It's a whole approach to life that covers everything from our mindset to our relationships to how we approach learning.
I agree. It's been wonderful exploring his ideas with you, and I hope our listeners have found this deep dive as insightful and enriching as we have.
Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We hope you've gained some valuable insights from Li Xiaolai's wisdom and that you're inspired to create a life of purpose, abundance, and fulfillment.
Remember, every journey starts with a single step. Take that step today.